Could the president possibly consider working something out with Iran?
Look, the president has said that all options are on the table.
Putin's war has brought evil into the homes of every American.
Do you believe the Russians are targeting civilians?
Definitely.
Partly thanks to social media, we're seeing firsthand the horror happening to the people in Ukraine. But the solutions proposed thus far,
sanctioning Russian oil companies,
oil and gas exports.
Oil is going to be key here.
Are a trap for the U.S., for our economy, for the world's free market, for you. Thanks to 21st century fascists trying to destroy our nation from within, plans to end Vladimir Putin are putting us dangerously close to killing ourselves in the process.
President Biden rescind his executive order that halts new oil and natural gas leases on public lands.
So while chaos continues in Eastern Europe, tonight, watch the other hand.
The best thing we can do is reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and foreign oil because that will help us have a reliable source of energy so that we're not worried about gas prices going up because of the whims of a foreign dictator.
I'll show you why American oil is the clear answer to this madness that Team Biden is so desperately trying to hide. Tonight, it's a Russian trap. The American cost of helping Ukraine.
Hello, America, and welcome to the program. It is a trap. I'll show you tonight what kind of trap it is. There's lots of things that kind of concern me about the direction we're headed. Let me start with this question. Are we better off today than we were in 2008? Do you think, you know what, the country is so much stronger than when we hit that TARP thing? You know, we had Barack Obama in office. George Bush had just left office. Right before the banking sector went down. Oh, we are so much stronger today than we were. Does anyone believe that? If you do, bro, move on. You're fine. You live in your little play world. Let me give you some stats about where we are. Majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Yay, we're number one. 1 in 5 workers earning $100,000 per year are living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, but do you remember when $100,000 was real money? The average gas price has set a new record, $4.10. Oh, that was so 26 hours ago. No, it's almost $4.20 now. 80% of all U.S. dollars were printed in the last 24 months. Wait a minute. What? Hold it. 80% of all U.S. dollars have been printed in the last 24 months. And this is the official number they're giving you. From $4 trillion to $20 trillion. I didn't know we had printing presses that big or forests just for the paper. $20 trillion in the last 2 years. 16 of it were printed in the last 2 years. Wow. That's interesting. I remember when I first started looking at the money supply, it was about 2006, and there was just about $1 trillion. It's a little bit more than that now, isn't it? U.S. national debt is now over $30 trillion. 61% of Americans support restrictions now on free speech. 61%. 30% of all Americans are now religiously unaffiliated. That kind of made me happy. I was kind of like, oh, wow, that's not so bad. That's how bad it is. When you're like, yeah, only 70% actually think, yeah, God's kind of an important thing. Okay, all right. So is that better? Oh, by the way, did you see the poll that came out yesterday that shows, and I love this, I think it was 60, Ricky, correct me if I'm wrong, 67% of Democrats said, yeah, I mean, if something bad happens here and we're invaded, I'd probably leave. Is that right? 67?
Yeah, I think you're right.
You're the producer. You think I'm right?
Google is slow. Biden slowed down our internet.
Really? Okay. All right. I think it's 67%. They won't fight. They'll turn tail and run. I've never seen that in American history. And by the way, that should tell you everything you need to know about 67% of Democrats. The real problem is pretty much all across the board, 18 to 34, they're like, I'm out of here. What does that tell you? That this country is not worth fighting for, dying for, standing up for to a large amount of people here in America. Why is that? Are we stronger than 2007, 2008, or are we weaker? You decide. Now, our fearless leader, who is dynamic, he gave a speech yesterday, and I just want to play a little bit of it here. Banana. Here he is.
Today, I'm announcing the United States is targeting the main artery of Russia's economy. We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy. That means Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Putin's war machine.
Yeah. And our president will deal another powerful blow to our economy. Slippers. I don't know about you, but he just instills confidence. By the way, the number is not 67, it's 52% that said they would just leave the country if problems happen. That's good. Okay, so let's look at what is the president doing? Well, we're going after, Putin, because we have to. And don't get me wrong, I am all for the elimination of Putin. I think he's thrown too many people off of roofs because they disagree with him. He's a bad dude, really bad dude. We all agree with that. I'm not vouching for the government of Ukraine, but I will tell you I am with the Ukrainian people. But what is the cost? At what point? Is there a price on freedom? I'll explain here in a minute. But I'm for getting rid of Putin. I'm for stopping this war before it spreads anywhere. But because the president won't open up our oil industry, and all I'm asking is, I don't know, get rid of the restrictions, even if it's until this is over. That's all you have to do. Hey, by the way, you can drill in my pants if you think you can find oil there in the next 6 months. But we can't cripple America economically. Okay, he's not doing that. But instead, he did announce that we're in negotiations with Iran. Now, as good as that might sound, I'd like to remind you of just a couple of items here. That is a country that execute women for honor crimes. And I think it was special that he announced that, we're going to talk to Iran on International Women's Day yesterday. They also execute gay people, and they say that they don't have any gay people. When they find them, they throw them off of the roof. But they're also the largest state sponsor of terrorism. They do that great chant, death to America. I love that. And death to Israel. Love it even more. And they're an ally of Russia. So we're going to them to ask them to help us out with oil. I can't imagine anything going wrong with that. Oh, but wait, we could also go to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. Who doesn't love Saudi Arabia? Of course, then again, Biden doesn't like Saudi Arabia because he said they were a pariah. So when they reached out yesterday and said, hey, Saudi Arabia, can you open up some oil, some oil pumps for us? They said, no, we're with Russia. Wasn't it just, 12 or 13 months ago, we were doing major peace deals in the Middle East with Saudi Arabia? Oh, those were the days. They don't come back. So we do have our good friends. I don't even need to mention it. I could just call them friends. Do I have to call them Venezuelans? Our friends in Venezuela. Now, they are great. You remember Venezuela. They were the model for the socialist thing. And they were forced to eat the animals from the zoo. I, by the way, have already, here in Dallas, I have already laid claim to the polar bear. So, whatever. Don't touch the bear. He's mine. Anyway, they were forced to eat the zoo animals until there weren't any zoo animals left. Hugo Chavez's daughter is the wealthiest woman in Venezuela. Isn't that weird? And the president, President Maduro, he was a bus driver, but now suddenly he's one of the 10 richest people in the country. Isn't that strange? Oh, by the way, they've had a few killings there, in 2019, 2018, it was about 7,000 that we know of. But I'm sure that's stopped. They love people who disagree with their president. Just like we do here. Isn't that weird? The other thing about Venezuela that I think makes me feel comfortable is they're also allies with Russia. So what the hell are we doing? We are empowering the worst people in the world. We're empowering 3 countries that we know are bad dudes, so we can get rid of one bad dude in another country. That doesn't sound smart. Now, I have a charitable heart. I want to see an end to the suffering of the people in Ukraine. I'd love to see a bullet in the head of Putin. However, is this the way to do it? Let me explain where we are. Come with me to the chalkboard. If I may show you, I don't know if you've seen the movie Titanic, but you can pretty much learn everything you ever needed to know from the movie Titanic. You need to know where we are as a country economically. Let me start at the beginning. Remember, the Titanic was unsinkable, kind of like America. It was this wonder. Nothing could ever happen to it because everybody loved it. And it was unsinkable. And then it left. And then somewhere along the way, there had to be somebody like me on the Titanic, a little nervous that everybody thought it was unsinkable. And when they started to speed up in the middle of the night where there were icebergs, I know there was somebody like me that said, there aren't enough lifeboats. We should slow down. We should be careful. But then, at some point, if you remember the movie, I'm pretty sure they renamed the Titanic the USS Joe Biden. And that's when it just plowed into that iceberg and ripped alongside. But it's unsinkable because there's all kinds of mechanisms. They got walls, down at the bottom of the ship. And so that'll just fill it. It's nothing like any other ship ever made. So we got a system for that. And meanwhile, a guy like me is now really going, hey, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. Get in the lifeboat now. You should probably get into the lifeboat. But everybody was still partying because they believed the captain of the SS Biden. Then there's the scene where, remember the guys, in just third class were behind the gate and they're like, hey, dude, open this up. We're all going to drown. And the guy's like, I can't. It's rules. We got to keep you down there. Okay. That's ESG. That's Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and our oil situation. See, while they're all up on the deck, having a great time, you know what I mean? And the architect of the ship gets into the lifeboat, and these people don't. That's where we are now. ESG is putting us behind the gate while all the rich people are like, hey, this is great, until it snaps in half. That's one of the favorite parts of and there, you remember Leonardo DiCaprio and what's her face? Just to piss the left off. What's her? Leonardo DiCaprio and the fat chick. What was her?
Clint.
Kate Winslet. I like to call her the fat chick just because it pisses people off. Anyway, they're up there. Remember that scene? That was great. And she's like, Jack, we're going to be together forever. And then she finds a door floating. And I don't know why a door came off its hinges and was floating. And you think that'd fall. It was floating, probably made out of a flotation device. But she's up there, as I remember it, drinking a pina colada and saying to him who's in the water, oh, hang on, Jack, hang on. It'll be great. Now it's not. She lives, he dies. She knew it. Okay? This is the story of America. This happened a year ago. This is happening now. This is about to happen. So if I may suggest, if any fat chick says to you, don't worry, we'll be together forever, Start looking for your own door, okay? Because she ain't going to share it with you. May I suggest, get a door. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know what I was saying. Let me show you one more thing. In regards to ESG, everybody says this is the best ever. Look at how the whole world is coming together. Look at all of these companies right now that are coming together. All of these great companies, PayPal and PlayStation and Pornhub. Like can you even make porn without Russians? I don't think so. Pornhub, we're not going to show them any porn. You got Adidas, Adobe, Amazon, Coca-Cola, who would like to remind you now, you're a racist. All of these companies, they're not coming together because they want to. They're not coming together because they're like, you know what, I think I'm going to lose money. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose money. And I'm going to do that because, man, I mean, our corporation has never shown heart before, but this time it's really important. Okay, all right, have a seat, IBM. Oh, yeah, you were there at the Holocaust. Have a frickin' seat. You know why they are coming together? Because they have a reputational risk at stake if they don't. Today, McDonald's finally said, people were saying, are you going to close? Are you going to close in Russia? And I know if you're like me, every time I pass the Golden Arches, all I'm thinking of is their social responsibility over in Russia. I can't tell you how many times I've wondered, do they still have a McDonald's open in Red Square? If so, that's wrong. And so I should write to the company or tweet about it. Nobody did that. Nobody. Maybe a few freaks, but that's it. McDonald's said they had to close their shop in Russia because they're facing a reputational risk. I know that phrase. I think it was used by the six-fingered man. And that was Trudeau. I think, remember when he had the banks say no money for you, no land for you, no anything for you? He followed it with, and after the emergency is over, if your bank, you want to continue to do business with them and open up an account again, you can, but you might face a reputational risk. All these companies are not coming together for the goodness of their heart. This is the Great Reset. And America cheers. Yay, look how this is working. If they can do it to Vladimir Putin, and I don't know how many tens or hundreds of millions of people that live in Russia, never counted them. If they can do it to a country that has nukes, wow. How much of hesitation will they have to do it to you? I'll show you what's really going on next. The show is scary enough. I don't think we need the scary music with it, too. Although we might want to try that for a whole episode. If you haven't already started, now is the time to start focusing on what you can shore up in your finances. I don't know if you've noticed this. Everything's getting a lot more expensive. If you have a credit card, most people have no idea what they're paying for their interest rate. Guarantee you it's in double digits, okay? That will rise when they raise the interest rate, which they're going to do in a couple of weeks. It will go up. As things get tougher and tougher, we've got a risk. I mean, we're not sure if anybody can pay us back. Yeah, and so what will they do? Jack those interest rates high on anybody, especially if you're close to the line, which I think will be pretty much everyone except the elites. Get out of that high interest credit card, pay as little as you can on your mortgage interest, not on your down, on the actual principal, but on the mortgage. In 10 minutes, you can be well on your way to new levels of financial freedom. You could save hundreds, if not $1,000 every month. It's American Financing that is waiting for your call now. They're a family-owned business. They're in it for you, not for the bank. I actually turned them down for commercials years ago because they called me in 2007 and I said, yeah, I'm not big on you mortgage people. And they're like, no, we don't do any of those crazy mortgage. We listen to you. We agree with you. And I'm like, yeah, call me back after the crash. They did. Their people were fine. Why? Because they're not crazy and they work for you. American Financing, AmericanFinancing.net, 800-906-2440. All right, let's go to the chalkboard here for just a sec, because I want to show you how the world is really working right now, and nobody's going to tell you this. Nobody sees the world this way. This is just the way I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I actually hope I'm wrong. It's the people. People all over the world. The Tea Party, Brexit, the Yellow Vests, the Swedes that, I don't know, want to fly their own flag and they're not ashamed of it. The Germans, we should probably do that, because the Germans are always, you don't want to listen to those. Anyway, Spain and Catalonia, Hong Kong, they were rising up. The Swiss, they just want more time with the miss, and they want their own banking system the way they have it. Okay, so you have the people rising up. And what are they all saying? In a nutshell, the same thing. We don't want to be told what to do. This doesn't even count the COVID stuff. People know. You can't tell me what to do, and I'm not ashamed of my country, and I'm not ashamed of my heritage. I'm not ashamed of all of this stuff, and I don't want to be one global order, okay? That's what's happening. That's where the people are. Then there is, let's call him Vlad. Here is Vlad. Vlad wants, he believes in his nation. So he wants a national dictatorship. That's what he wants. National dictatorship. He'll tell everybody what to do. And then you have, I would add China on this too. China, they want a national dictatorship, and eventually they will take over the whole world. So there's the people. Here's Vlad in China. Here's the West. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. International dictatorship over a national dictatorship. And here's all the little people. They're fighting this. When the President of the United States says, you know what? It's going to hurt the American people. Why would you do something? Let me go back to Titanic. Okay, so the one fat chick, who I love saying this because she wasn't fat, but it drives people crazy when you say she's fat. Don't you worry about fat shaming? Anyway, the real fat chick, what was her name? Kathy Bates. Remember when she was on the boat? What did she say? She got on the lifeboat and they had space and she's like, you people are cowards. Why? You won't go back and pick people up. And the guy who's, I don't know, with the Titanic probably worked the rope or something. And he's like, we can't go back or we'll all drown. He was right. He was right. You can't help other people if you take your own boat and sink it. And that is exactly what our president is doing. We are sinking our own boat. Now, let me give you some stories here. The banks in China have decided not to do any business with Russia. Wow. Now, this was a couple of days ago. Have you seen China lately? China seems to be more in the boat for Russia. But see, they're not, because they're competing for national dictatorships. But both of them would like to take down the international, otherwise known as the Great Reset. They'd like to take that down. So they'll work together, but they're frenemies. They're frenemies. A different game is being played right now. In 1938, this would have been great if all these companies like IBM, yes, IBM, I'm here to remind you about your role in Auschwitz, IBM and the Holocaust, read it. It would be great if those companies would have, stepped up because they volunteered to. That would be fantastic. They never do that. They never do that. This is coercion. This is the worst. Now, if everybody would have done this in 1938, it would have been good. And we would still have concerns with oil, but we wouldn't have been exercising our muscle against Germany at that time. We didn't. Why? Why? Because it wasn't in our national interest at the time. As soon as we were bombed by Pearl Harbor, it was. Now, you could say, we've learned our lesson. Great. But you're sinking the lifeboat at the same time. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you in the worst possible way. What price would you put on freedom for all of those people in Ukraine? How much is that worth to you? Now, you might say, that's a horrible question to ask. You've already put a price on it. You already have. We're just haggling now. You put a price on it when you said, I don't want to send troops over to Ukraine. Okay, that's a price. You're not willing to pay in blood. Okay, good. Let's haggle. We know that. Are you willing to lose your savings, lose your economy, go into, I'll give you this one. You're willing to go into the Great Depression for the people of Ukraine and putting Putin in his place. It's very noble if you say yes, but I don't believe you if you say yes. Is it worth that price? Because that's the minimum price that we will pay. That's the minimum. And nobody's talking about that. And I just want to have a conversation. If that's what we all decide to do, not the elites, but if that's what we all decide to do, we can do it. We'll pull each other up from by our bootstraps. We'll help each other. That's what Americans do. You never count us out. However, we have people on top who don't have that spirit of America that we have. Their goal is not about Ukraine. It's about the Great Reset. Everything you're seeing is a stage. Let me give you a couple of other items here. Bank of America just said this week that there could be a 5 million barrel or larger shortfall. Oil could double to $200 a barrel. Okay. Bloomberg, the index of raw materials, fears new shortages in energy, grains, and metals. Do you know who provides 25% of the world's wheat? Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine farmers are probably going to be a little busy this spring, and Russia is already facing all kinds of problems with their farms. How are our farms doing? Oh, we're having a problem getting fertilizer because fertilizer is made with natural gas. Huh. And you know where they make it? China and Russia. Do you see how this is all stacking? Why is no one in the media telling you all of these things? By the way, the day that the president is on saying, you know what? I'm compassionate. I hear my people. I hear them. And what they're saying to me is gas is too expensive. And that's why I say to them, let them eat cake at a Tesla store. Because everybody can afford a Tesla. Oh, on the very day he and his people are out, Kamala Harris, imagine a world where electricity just comes out of the wall without any coal or nuclear or gas, nothing, just It's a magic box that you can plug your car in. Imagine that. On the day she's giving that speech, nickel goes up $67. Now, if I had a nickel for every time I thought I should buy nickel as a great investment, I'd have a nickel. Because the only time I've ever thought about it was yesterday. Too late, dummy. You know what's in every car battery? Nickel. Nickel. And you need lots of nickel for the EVs. So, what happened to nickel yesterday? Oh, oil. People are going to want electric cars. Nickel. Because we don't have enough nickel. But don't think about that. Don't think about that. Imagine a world where our trucks drive themselves on fairy dust. We're at the place where we are cheering on the bad guys because what you're watching is a show. You're watching real plight of the Ukrainian people, but they are merely players. They're only used to evoke emotion from you. If we cheer all of these things that are going on, we cheer the Great Reset, who's going to be left with any credibility to say, no, that's a problem, guys? Because it's not just about Ukraine. It is the West and their international dictatorship, the Great Reset, going after Putin, who says, no, a nation-state dictatorship is the future. We are facing job losses, economic crisis, possible war, and we are doing it with people at the top of the ship, including the media, that are intentionally not giving us all of the options. Don't get on board. That thing is not unsinkable. We've already hit the iceberg. Get to the lifeboat. And the lifeboat is food storage. And I'm not talking about, I've got enough food for 25 years. Get enough food so when we go through this, just think like your grandparents. If your grandparents were the age of mine, they lived through the Great Depression. They saved everything. I'm wearing these stupid jeans. I think I probably paid extra for that little hole. My grandmother, if I would have gone over to her house, she would have put a patch on it. She would have been like, you can wear those jeans forever. And I'd be like, Grandma, I think I paid $100 extra for that little hole. She would have looked at me and slapped me. What is wrong with you? My grandfather would have slapped me twice. Yeah, I'm with her. What's wrong with you? We have to start thinking like our grandparents. Anything you buy today will be higher price in the future, in the very near future. If you want more on this, listen to today's radio podcast. I started with the fact that one barrel of oil only produces 19 and a half gallons of gasoline. So every time you fill your tank, if you got a 20-gallon tank, you're using that one barrel of oil, okay? About 60% of the oil in the barrel can't be used to make gasoline. You know what that makes? Plastic. That makes everything. That makes polyester. Too bad. Boy, they'd be freaking out in the 70s. It makes almost everything from gas to the oil you put in your sewing machine, to your fabrics, to dentures, to denture adhesives. Everything is made with the remaining part. It's called cracking, right? They're cracker plants. Cracking. I didn't know what it was. It's amazing what you'll learn in this job. That is a petroleum plant that takes and breaks down all the molecules after they've made the gas with the remaining oil. We're going to have a shortage of everything if we don't wise up. Tell your congressmen, your senators, you must relieve the pressure here on the American people, not with a new Tesla, but instead by lifting the regulations off, even if they're temporarily lifted, or we won't have a country left. More in a minute. All right. Let me tell you about Relief Factor. If you're one of the millions of Americans who suffer every day from pain, listen up. There is hope. I have been with a listener who I met probably 2 years ago. We brought a bunch of people in right when I started doing this campaign. And one of them, her and her husband, she took Relief Factor because her husband told her to. Because she had given up on everything. She was on narcotics. She was in such agonizing back pain. She couldn't walk. And her husband, I could see it. He was tired, and when he told me the story, they both cried, but he cried the hardest. He's like, Relief Factor gave my wife back to me. I didn't think I would ever see that woman again. Relief Factor will give you your life back if it works for you. It works for me. Please try it. Relief Factor is not a drug developed by doctors. I can't believe it works for me, but it does. 70% of the people who try it go on to order more month after month. Try it for 3 weeks. Use their 3-week trial pack. See if it works for you. ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Justin Haskins, who is my co-author of the book, The Great Reset. Justin, I have to tell you, I saw a lot of things coming. We both did. We brainstormed a lot of different scenarios of how this would be imposed, but not a single one of those scenarios had the American people cheering it on as it was brought on. Am I reading this wrong? This seems to me to be the introduction to the Great Reset. Everybody like, oh my gosh, that was so great. What happened there? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, look at how this whole thing started. It started with a gigantic pandemic that they called a golden opportunity, with millions of people potentially dying all over the world at that time. They had no idea what was going to happen. And they said this was a golden opportunity. Never let a serious crisis go to waste. That is their mantra. And when this happened, as horrific as it is, this became an opportunity to them to advance the Great Reset, to continue the coordination between corporations and banks and financial institutions to make sure everybody is rowing in the same direction, and to help move things forward according to their agenda to advance international 21st century fascism. That is exactly what's going on here. And I think, by the way, they're probably collapsing the economy. I think they knew the economy was going to collapse anyway, and they're just hastening it and preparing for the next phase.
If I may quote Admiral Akbar, it's a trap. It absolutely seems as though, I mean, I read an article today, I don't remember where, but I read an article today that said, the question is, will the West, and the United States in particular, collapse before Russia? And if Russia collapses, will it be so painful compared to the collapse that America will face? I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, I don't either. And then you have to ask yourself, why are our policymakers even putting us in a position where collapse is an option for us? I mean, that is an incredibly dangerous game. And I know that this sounds, maybe a little conspiratorial or whatever, but if you're Joe Biden, this benefits you. Even if the collapse happens, it benefits you, because it's not, in their minds, going to be blamed on them. It's going to be blamed on Russia. This was all Russia's fault. It had nothing to do with us. We already had runaway inflation. We already had rising oil prices. We already had a slow economy. We had massive, massive problems. We were on the verge of a crash already. And now this happens. And conveniently, they can all point to someone else and say, oh, it's Vladimir Putin's fault.
It's funny because they're already doing it. They already did it. We had a growing economy. It was overheating until this. They just said yesterday and today, gas prices were fine until this. This is all Russia. They are making that case and rewriting it in history as we speak.
Yes. And not only did they say that gas prices were fine, they said that they didn't do anything to contribute to gas prices going up, that they had nothing to do with it. When their whole policies were designed deliberately to raise the price of gasoline because they don't want people using it.
So, Justin, how do we convince people at this point you're being played. This is a game. This is a ruse. And don't cheer this on. You might hate Putin. I do. I wish he were gone. I want the people of Ukraine free, but not at the price of world freedom.
Yes, the giveaway was when the solution to destroying Putin. So we're going to destroy Putin by withholding, by not buying energy from him. That's how we're going to destroy him, because he's a tyrant. The giveaway is that they immediately went to other tyrants to buy their energy. That they immediately went to Venezuela, to Saudi Arabia, to all of these people that don't share our values either. Well, wait a minute. I thought this was about morality. Isn't that the point of this? Do we even recognize the government of Venezuela? I thought that election was stolen, and we don't even recognize that government. Now we're going to them begging for oil.
Okay, thank you.
That is the dead giveaway.
Thank you for saying stolen election. Now we'll be banned from all social media. Back in just a second. If you're a dog owner, you know that taking care of your pet means more than giving him food or water. I can tell you this because my wife doesn't watch me. She doesn't. She's like, why would I watch him? I get this all the time. Anyway, she said for me for last year, we're not getting another dog. We're not getting another dog. Guess who's getting another dog probably next week? Yeah. So anyway, Uno. We have wanted Uno to live a long, long, healthy life, but it's not going to last, and it seems to ease our pain when we have another dog to kind of hold our paw or his paw in our hand as we lose the other one. Rough Greens is a great thing that has made Uno healthier. It has made him younger. It really has. And it's made him eat. He is a valued member of our family, and I want the best for him. Rough Greens, RUFF Greens. Go there now, at roughgreens.com/Beck. They'll give you a free bag that you can check out, and make sure your dog likes it. Then order another bag and watch what happens to your dog. 833-GLEN-33 or roughgreens.com/Beck. Before I get to another announcement from our grand leader today about digital dollars, I want to ask you, the ESG funds are now, they've decided that they are going to invest in defense companies now that the Russian invasion has happened. Isn't this exactly why fascism works so well? If the government says we're going in this direction, then all of the funding and all of the companies turn on a dime to create whatever it is the leader wants. So that,
yep.
Right?
And that's the feature of this whole model.
Right.
Every time these people talk about why we need to have stakeholder capitalism, why we need to change the economy and push the reset button, they always point to China. And they say, or they often do, and they say, look at how fast they can do things in China. Look at how they can maneuver the economy whenever they want. That is exactly what they're trying to do with this ESG system. How can we, anytime we want, move the economy in one direction or another direction without having to go through Congress or without having an edict from the White House or anything like that? And that's what we're seeing right now.
Because the consequence of this, the trade-off of this is complete control of your life. You cannot go against it. You can't go your own way. The American idea and experiment is dead entirely if you impose this. Yesterday, the White House came out and said, hey, we're not sure. We got some cryptocurrency policies that we're going to look into. That sent Bitcoin up. They were expecting something worse than that. But then today, they released that they're looking into the agencies and asking all of the government agencies just to consider a new Fed digital dollar. This is something that most people will say, oh, well, no big deal. I use a credit card anyway. What's the difference? I don't use cash. Why is this so bad?
What people need to understand is that when they're talking about creating a digital dollar, they're talking about creating an entirely new dollar. an entirely new currency. They're calling it a dollar because that's what people understand, and they don't want people to know what's really going on, frankly. But they're creating a whole new currency. And according to this executive order, they're saying within 6 months that they need to do this with great urgency, that they have to move as quickly as they possibly can to create a report that will provide them with a roadmap for having a new currency. That's what they're saying. And this time, when they roll out this new currency, they need to make sure that it's designed with all of the stakeholders in mind. They use that word over and over and over again on a recent press call. Stakeholders, 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 including people from industry and environmental groups and other activist organizations and corporations. All these people are going to be involved in designing the new currency. Why? So that it is inclusive. So that's inclusive with all of the various stakeholders that exist. So that it has it meets the current needs, this is a direct quote, meets the current needs of consumers in a manner that is equitable, inclusive, and efficient. It's going to have industry, labor, consumer, environmental groups, international allies, and partners all joining together to create an entirely new currency.
Okay, there's a couple of
currency that they will be able to track and control and know what you're doing with your money at all times.
Right. So two things on this. Currency, whenever we've had a currency change, we've had it in the past. We had it right around the Great Depression the last time. You'll lose anywhere from 40 to 60% of everything you have. Okay, so it first of all, having a new currency, when you say a new dollar, that's what you should hear. You're going to lose 40 to 60%, but it's going to be equitable trades now. So if I'm white and have money, I'm going to get maybe 30 cents on my dollar. But if you're poor and you're one of the protected classes, you might get 70 cents or maybe even $1.10 for every dollar that you have. It's going to be equitable. That's according to the U.S. Treasury. Look it up yourself. The other thing, and I want you to explain this quickly, we have a minute, programmable money. That's the actual language. What does that mean?
Well, what I think it means, and of course they won't tell us exactly what they mean, but what I think it means is that they're going to be able to design it in such a way so that they can decide at any given moment what you can do with the money, what you can't do with the money, where you can spend it, where you can't spend it, what you're doing with it, where you're hoarding it, whether you should lose access to it if you don't spend it within a certain period of time. It means control. Ultimately, that's what it means.
Right, and you're not talking about the royal you, right? We're talking about you, that this money will be programmed to you and what you're allowed to buy, spend, or do. Justin, thank you. Back in a minute. Hey, I don't know if you know this, but there's a paper shortage going on. It's about to get worse. Yeah, believe it or not, paper factories are shutting down all over the world. Get your paper copy of my new book, The Great Reset. It is available in bookstores everywhere. Order it, get it, save it now. Good night.